talked about before today.
What's that smell?
I knew that door had a lock on it!
Maybe said you're going to have an accident.
But Frank would know what he was secretly thinking about in this moment. This doesn't feel like something he would tell his son about later. In fact,
What did he name his puppet?
Burgers?
I know I'm not the only one hearing that. My goodness. What is going on? What's good, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today, we are taking this video a little bit more seriously. You might know of a person named Alex Bale, widely regarded as the quote-unquote SpongeBob guy. Now, if you've watched his SpongeBob theories, you know his theories are the best. Aside from MatPat, but he doesn't count because he's retired. Today, we're going to be reacting to Alex Bale's Diary of the Wimpy Kid theory. Are you ready, kids?
There is a single page in the first Diary of a Wimpy Kid book that, at first glance, seems completely normal. But there's something on this page that, once you see it, will forever change the way you look at these books. There's a genuinely unnerving implication here that I don't think anyone has ever talked about before today.
What's that smell?
I knew that door had a lock on it!
Maybe said you're going to have an accident.
Got the shirt off.
Zooey
Got the
mama.
shirt off TikTok shop.
Hi
I get
there.
ads for that shirt all the time on TikTok.
Diary of a Wimpy Kid is a classic children's book series about a narcissistic kid named Greg Heffley who believes one day he'll be famous.
The only reason I agreed to write in this thing is because when I'm rich and famous, I'll have better things to do than answer people's stupid questions all day long.
But until then, he's stuck in middle school dealing with his crazy family and the weird kids at school.
Wanna see my secret freckle?
This theory, Fregley, by the way, I don't think I'm capable of figuring out what's going on with him.
They've gone on to make 20 books, 4 Rowley spin-offs, and 7 movie adaptations, and there are no signs of them ever slowing down. And the weird thing about this is that not only do these books get a lot more cartoony and unrealistic as they go along, but by book 20, Greg is still in middle school. He never ages. And look, I know this is a thing that happens in a lot of different media about kids in school, but the thing that's interesting about Diary of a Wimpy Kid is that the books themselves are constantly acknowledging it. But for now, I'm stuck in middle school with a bunch of morons. To be honest with you, I feel like I've been stuck in middle school forever. I looked in the mirror, but everything looked exactly the same as it always does.
You got kids like me who haven't hit their growth spurt yet, mixed in with gorillas who have to shave twice a day.
From the start, these diaries have been drawing attention to the fact that Greg doesn't age, which makes me feel like there might be some kind of in-universe explanation for it. And look, I promise this is not going to be another edgy, Greg is actually dead theory.
What?
No, I think there's actually a much simpler explanation. These books are not the objective truth. They are diaries written by an egotistical sociopath who is constantly lying to make himself look better. Greg is the definition of an unreliable narrator.
So, for all we know, Greg is aging normally, but for whatever...
Greg is the definition of an unreliable narrator.
So, for all we know, Greg is aging normally, but for whatever reason, he's just choosing to lie about it in his diaries. That's the most logical in-universe explanation. Or, that's at least what I thought, until I found a very strange detail on page 122 of the first Diary of a Wimpy Kid book. A page that forever changed the way that I look at these diaries.
On this page, Greg talks about giving his parents the same gifts for Christmas every year. I gave mom and dad their gifts. I get them the same kind of thing every year, but parents eat that stuff up. And then we see a drawing of Greg giving his parents their gifts. Do you see anything wrong with this? Look very closely.
No.
Greg believes that his parents eat that stuff up, but in the drawing, his parents are clearly unhappy with their gifts. The drawing contradicts Greg's opinion, which means Greg couldn't have written this page. Wait a second, is Greg not the author of his diaries?
It's obviously Jeff Kinney.
Okay, so obviously I know that Jeff Kinney is the real author of these books, and all
See,
of
I
this
told
is just
you.
fictional. But I'm saying, in the universe of Diary of a Wimpy Kid, what if someone else is writing these diaries pretending to be Greg?
Have you ever noticed how the diaries are constantly cutting to other perspectives when Greg isn't around? We've kind of just had to assume that Greg either heard about these things after the fact, or maybe he was just exaggerating, but sometimes they really feel like they're telling us things that Greg wouldn't know. Mom likes to rent these romantic comedies, and she makes Dad watch them with her, but I know Dad is just waiting for the first chance to break away and go back down to the basement. How does Greg know this? I mean, who else but Frank would know what he was secretly thinking about in this moment? This doesn't feel like something he would tell his son about later. In fact, these books are full of moments like this that feel like they're specifically from Greg's dad's perspective. Greg even claims at the start of Third Wheel that he can remember things from when he was in his mother's womb, and the things he remembers do feel kinda accurate, but wouldn't it make way more sense if these were actually Frank's memories from when his wife was pregnant?
What if Frank is the real author of the diaries? What if these are books that Frank is writing based on his son's life for some unknown reason? And it's okay if you're not fully on board yet, because I didn't really take this seriously either until I found something insane.
At the start of Dog Days, we are told that there is a newspaper comic called Lil Cutie that Frank and Greg read together every day. And we find out that Lil Cutie is a comic series that was written by a father based on his son. Look at these two drawings on the same page. You can't tell me they aren't trying to frame Frank and Greg in the exact same way as the Lil Cutie author and his son. And that's not even the craziest part, because on the very next page it says, I guess now that the real Little Cutie is all grown up, his dad's having trouble coming up with new material. His dad's having trouble coming up with new material. Is this not exactly what we've been talking about this whole time? The diaries get cartoonier and Greg never ages because now that his son is grown up, Frank is out of new material and he's forced to just make stuff up. We even find out in Old School that Frank had a very similar childhood to Greg. He also had a best friend like Rowley, a dog, and two brothers that annoyed him. So maybe some of Greg's middle school stories are actually based on Frank's childhood memories.
Greg, we're a lot alike.
Everything here fits perfectly.
Now, if you still don't believe me, then I have one final question for you. A question that's been right in front of our faces this entire time, but we never thought to ask it before now. Why are these books called Diary of a Wimpy Kid? Why would Greg, someone who is consistently shown as narcissistic and egotistical, ever refer to himself as Wimpy? Greg has an extremely high opinion of himself. That's like his main thing. But you know who does think Greg is wimpy?
His father.
His dad.
Dad was pretty mad at me for letting myself get bullied by a kid who was still in kindergarten. When Dad saw it, he said it was a girl bike and I should get rid of it. Dad said there was no way he was getting me a dollhouse. So yes, I believe for whatever reason, Greg's dad decided to write the Diary of a Wimpy Kid books. And just like with Little Cutie, it ended up becoming a huge financial success, leading to a whole series of books and even a handful of movies.
I always figured they'd make a movie about my life, but I didn't think they'd start the story here.
I always figured they'd make a movie about my life. This line implies that these are in-universe movies based on the diaries. And Greg did actually become famous like he always wanted, but what if it's because his father decided to create a best-selling book series about his life?
And that is my Diary of a Wimpy Kid theory.
But wait.
Case closed.
Watch.
Yep, I'm pretty sure we wrapped up everything. I know I always say that, and then there's like a big surprise plot twist in these videos, but like, this time we're done for sure. I mean, you can just leave. We're all done.
Leave? I got you. So what are we gonna do now, guys? You wanna play Minecraft or?
Don't look for sure. I mean, you can just leave. We're all done. Don't look at the runtime of this video.
26 minutes? We're at 8 minutes. How is he gonna drag this out for 30 minutes?
Okay, so I genuinely wanted to end the theory here and be done with it, but there's a scene in the first Diary of a Wimpy Kid movie that I can't stop thinking about. I don't even want to show it because I promised I wasn't gonna do this, but just take a look for yourself.
He had to eat his lunch on the floor.
I was right. You're not even gonna make it out of there alive. The only chance you have making the yearbook is when they dedicate it to your memory.
The only chance you'll have of making the yearbook is if they dedicate it to your memory. Wait a second. Could that be what these movies are?
No,
Did
no.
Frank write these diaries because Greg is dead?
Not the Greg is dead theory. You literally said it's not about that.
I know, I promised I wasn't gonna do another they were dead the whole time theory, but I swear, this is not your usual edgy run-of-the-mill Greg's in purgatory theory. There's something to this. And I know
That's what he said about the Twilight theory also.
people have already suggested this before, but what I have never seen anyone talk about is the fact that there are so many moments in these movies that talk about Greg like he is dead or going to die.
You'll be dead or homeschooled by the end of the year anyway.
You're not even gonna make it out of there alive.
He will kill you. Literally kill you.
You're dead.
Move over. I'm dying. He'll kill me. You're killing me. You know that? You guys are dead. Why don't kill me if she knows we're here?
You're so freaking dead.
I'll die.
You can't call if you're dead.
You can kill me.
She's gonna kill both of us.
We're dead.
Mom would kill us. You are so dead.
Greg, you are so dead!
Goodbye, Gregory. You will always be remembered.
When they dedicate it to your memory.
Like, I'm not
I've never heard that one before.
crazy, right? That's a weird amount of references to Greg's death.
And remember, these are the same movies that decided to unambiguously tell us that Greg is famous enough to get a movie made about him.
I always figured they'd make a movie about my life.
Maybe they're also telling us the reason why, and these are just actors portraying
he's
someone who
dead.
tragically passed away. And it's not just the movies either. In Dog Days, when Greg is talking about reading in school, he says this very interesting line. I'm not really sure what makes a book a classic to begin with, but I think it has to be at least 50 years old, and some person or animal has to die at the end. And then later on, when he has to read Charlotte's Web, he says, just from looking at the cover, I guarantee either the girl or the pig doesn't make it to the end of the book.
And he was wrong. Spoiler alert! If you've never read or watched Charlotte's Web, I won't spoil it for you because I want that to be an organic experience for you. Just kidding, the spider dies! The spider dies at the end. The spider dies. Half that sentence is gonna be blurred out. Sorry, I get excited sometimes. I can't control it.
Look, I know I might be going up.
It's the cover of the book! It's literally the cover of the book. But the girl didn't die, though. The girl didn't die.
Look, I know I might be going off the rails here, but wouldn't it be so tragically ironic if Greg actually did become as famous as he wanted, but it was only because of his death?
I always figured they'd make a movie about my life, but I didn't think they'd start the story here.
That's why they adapted the diaries into movies, that's why he's always been stuck in middle school, and that is the real reason why his father decided to write a book series about him.
I'm gonna pitch in my own theory here, if you can even call it that. He's dead right now. He's dead, right? So they made movies, shows about him. Oh, maybe not. I was gonna say, like, maybe he's, like, stuck in a never-ending cycle of middle school, but that wouldn't make sense. Yeah, this is why I don't do theories. I should just go ahead and delete the theory channel. There's nothing uploaded on it anyway.
To keep his memory alive.
And look, it's okay if you're not fully on board yet, because I've still got some really big evidence. But before we get into that, I want to take a look at how I think the real Greg Heffley might have died. And just a warning, this will probably sound like a lot of random speculation at first, but I promise it'll all come together in the end.
fire. What?
Going back to the movie that told us about Greg's fame and possible death, there's a scene where Roderick tells Greg and Rowley a scary story about a nearby forest called Devil Worshipper Woods.
There used to be this house. They had to tear it down because what happened there was so terrible. Two kids who were, I don't know, maybe in middle school. They trick-or-treated that house on Halloween night. But the house was full of devil worshippers.
Roderick tells them about a house that abducted children and cooked them in an oven, but that ultimately led to an accidental fire that burned down the house with everyone inside.
But they forgot to turn off the ovens, so the house burned down with everyone in it.
Now, this is obviously just a story Roderick is making up to scare Greg. They even go to the woods later and only see Fregley.
Do you see the disappointment in my face? I was literally getting scared of Diary of the Wimpy Kid. I was about to get jump scared.
Guys?
But what if there's a nugget of truth to this story? Because later, in Roderick Rules, we briefly see a newspaper that seems to be talking about some kind of fire. And in the books, there are several references to house fires, including an instance where Greg actually accidentally causes one in their home. There's also this insane deleted scene from the third movie where Manny ominously talks about an accident.
You threw Tingy away.
Well, it was an accident.
Tingy says you're going to have an accident.
Yeah, I see why they deleted that scene. There are a lot of weird references to some kind of accident or house fire throughout the franchise. What if these are hints about how Greg actually died? But if so, when and how did...
And if you're gonna look at all the references at fire being a hint how he died, then anything else hinting you'd also need to look at. But what if there's nothing else hinted and this is the only thing hinted? What am I talking about? What am I talking about? Why do I have a theory channel? Why does it exist? Literally why? There's no reason. There's no reason why I should ever step foot in the studio and make a theory, because I am horrible.
Did this happen? Well, here's my theory. In Roderick Rules, Roderick throws a party when their parents and Manny go out of town.
And don't have anybody over this weekend.
He tells Greg that he can join the party, but ends up locking him in the basement instead.
We need chairs from the basement.
Roderick, help! The door's closed!
Yeah, and it's staying closed. I don't need a middle schooler ruining my party.
Roderick!
Now, in the movie, Greg is able to escape and join the party, but in the books, Greg is trapped there all night, and he says that it was so cold that he practically froze to death. But
see, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. Anything else hinted at death, you have to investigate also. So this, you have to go back and look at all the instances of him freezing or being frozen or cold and anything around that pertaining to that, right?
The next day, he gets out and they quickly clean up before their parents come home. They even have to replace one of their doors, but they do finish in time.
See? Told you it'd work.
But look at what the diary says about their parents' reactions when they first get home. Mom and Dad's car rolled into the driveway right when we were tightening the last screw. You could tell they were pretty relieved the house hadn't burned down when they were away.
Oh no! No, you cannot do that. We had freezing to death, so I was like, yes! There's another thing that he has to go back and look for, and then they just bury it with the burning house. So maybe Greg died in a house fire and his dad died by freezing to death. And then they're making the movies to commemorate. Yeah, they're making them to commemorate both of them. Ah, that's actually fire. Greg died in a house fire. His dad made books about him. He got rich. He died. He froze to death. And then they made the movies to commemorate Greg's dad because he died in...
Way. Interesting. Another very specific reference to an accidental house fire. Again, that's weird, but obviously there was no actual fire here. I mean, in every version of the story, there's a crazy party, and Greg gets trapped in the basement, but the house never burns down. But what if it did? Remember, this diary, and by extension the movies based on them, are unreliable narrators, possibly written by a grieving father who wants to keep the memory of his son alive. So we don't know for sure what actually happened when Greg was locked in that basement all night. The basement that Frank has warned them to stay out of. The basement that Greg was practically freezing to death in with no source of warmth. Except, that's not entirely true, because we also know that the basement is the house's furnace room.
Oh! I'm gonna take the glass off. The glare is not. The basement was so cold that Greg was so desperate to get warm, he wandered on to the furnace. He turned it on and fiddled with it to get warm. It exploded. Shit exploded. The house burns down. Greg dies. Dad goes off to make books. Gets rich. Dies by freezing to death. They make the movies. Thank you for watching my theory on Greg Heffley, A Diary of the Wimpy Kid.
So what if Greg tried to get warmer by messing with the furnace, but instead he ended up accidentally starting a deadly house fire? Yes, I believe that Greg never actually left that basement, and everything after this page is a complete and total lie.
Okay, that's a big claim, I know. And I did warn you, this would sound like a lot of random speculation, but I do actually have the evidence to back it up.
To start off, remember that newspaper that mentioned a fire? Well, Greg gets it as he's cleaning up the party. And it mentions the fire happening at 6 a.m. when Greg still would have been freezing in the basement. And also, look at what happens immediately after this page in the movie.
You are in so much trouble.
She's gonna kill both of us.
Greg and Roderick are unambiguously depicted as dead. This theory also explains why a lot of the death references also include Roderick.
She's gonna kill both of us.
We're dead.
Mom would kill us, and I am a dead man.
Since he would likely be a victim of the fire as well.
So the house burned down with everyone in it.
Frank even describes the smell of Roderick's room as unidentifiable.
What is that smell? I can't even identify it.
But the real reason why I think this fire theory is so compelling is because of the very strange way that Frank starts to act when he gets home. Yes, that is correct. I am finally going to talk about the thing that has been all over TikTok for the past year, the movie's depiction of Frank.
And this is what I think started Folk Valley on Bro. This is the one that drew all the psychopaths to TikTok, and then they started Folk Valley. That's my theory on that.
I'm the laugher! Ah! I knew that door had a lock on it, and everybody was trying to make me
Like I was losing my mind.
feel like I was losing my mind!
I am far from the first person to notice this, but in the Diary of a Wimpy Kid movies, Frank acts legitimately insane, to the point where it's kind of become a meme to joke about him being this serial killer guy that might have killed his family.
Hey, how about then, no video games and no television for the rest of the summer?
Dad, no!
I stopped laughing! I stopped!
Ha! Guess who's the laugher now? Me! I'm the laugher! I'm the laughingest laugher that ever laughed!
But the thing that's interesting to me that I haven't seen anyone talk about is that Frank doesn't really start to act like this until after the Roderick Rules party, when he becomes extremely paranoid and starts to believe that something's wrong with the house.
So, who came over this weekend?
What? Hey! What the?
You guys got something you want to tell me?
What was General Grant doing on the thermostat?
He acts this way in the books too.
Thermostat. Like where you control the temperature? Has to mean something.
But in the movies, he really acts like he's losing his sanity over the little inconsistencies in the house.
I knew that door had a lock on it! And everybody was trying to make me feel like I was losing my mind!
This roller skating kid is really good. Don't you think that
What if what we're actually seeing is Frank having some kind of mental breakdown because he couldn't handle the reality of coming home to find his house had burned down with both of his children inside?
What is that smell? I can't even identify it.
Not very sure on that. Dad froze to death anymore. We'll see how it turns out.
Think that Frank would be incapable of accepting this horrible truth, so instead, he's staying in denial and imagining that the fire never actually happened and that his children are still alive.
Deny, deny, deny.
Got it. Deny, deny, deny.
The reason why Frank is fixating on the little differences in his house, like the bathroom lock being different, is because in reality, he's actually already moved into
Let me tell you guys something. That just reminded me. Downstairs, there's a couch, there's a wall behind it, and there's a light switch. Couch, wall behind it, light switch. There's 2 light switches. I swear on my mother that on that light switch, there was not 2 light switches. There was a button. Somebody's calling me. I don't know who that is, why they're calling me. I'm not gonna answer it. What the fuck just happened? Am I being recorded? I mean, I'm recording myself. I don't know. You know what? I'm gonna shut up. I apologize. There was always 2 light switches. I am losing my mind. There was always 2 light switches. You know, it was always 2 light switches. It's never changed since we've moved in. It's always been 2 light switches. You know, I vividly remember moving in, and that's literally like the first light switch I touched because I wanted to see in the living room. Right, I turned the light on. I was like, man, it's hot in here because we just moved in there. Like the AC was like on some whack stuff, like when we first moved in. So I turned on the fan. There was 2 light switches.
Entirely new home after the fire, but he'd rather concoct a whole elaborate story about his children replacing the door than accept the truth.
I knew that door had a lock on it!
Deny, deny, deny.
Also, remember that terrifying Manny deleted scene?
Tingy says you are going to have an accident.
Is that where he goes crazy after that scene? No.
Scene makes no sense in the context of this movie, but with this theory, it just fits so perfectly. This is a moment of truth sneaking into Frank's delusions. His subconscious is telling him about the accident, but he is completely unable to accept it.
The house burned down with everyone in it. Deny, deny, deny.
And I think that that is the real reason why Frank decided to create a diary pretending to be his son, Greg, so that he could continue to remain in denial about his death forever. I told you it would all click together. It's possible Greg did actually have his own diary at some point, and now Frank is just continuing it. But either way, I think that the books that we are reading are a strange denial fantasy that Frank is writing to cope with his son's death. This also gives a whole new meaning to why Frank is so protective over the basement in these books. The basement is where Frank works on his Civil War dioramas, and he's really strict about not wanting anyone to go down there. But maybe, even in his fantasy, Frank actually wants to keep his kids away from the basement that caused all of this. There's also this moment at the end of the Roderick Rules movie where Frank realizes his entire family is no longer sitting with him.
This roller skating kid is really good.
No, that's sad.
And people like to joke about how Frank is realizing his entire family is dead or whatever, which doesn't exactly—
That's sad though. Man.
Exactly line up with my fire theory since Susan and Manny would still be alive. But if Frank has turned the loss of their children into a fictional best-selling franchise for money, then I could totally see Susan divorcing him and taking Manny. I mean, she was very much depicted as someone who believes in honesty.
You lied to me, and you know how I feel about that.
So I think this scene actually works really well with this theory.
Don't you think that
You are going to have an accident.
Whether or not you agree with every part of this theory, you have to admit there's a lot of really compelling connections here, and it offers us a very tragic new way to read these books. Nothing of what we see in these diaries is the full truth. It's a combination of both Frank's true memories of his son and fictional ones he's created to keep the lie going. We have to think of these books as more than just Frank and Greg. They're a weird amalgamation of them both. In a sense, these books are the story of Freg.
Freg?
Wait a second.
No.
Oh, what the fuck?
No! How is he gonna connect Fregly to this theory? I'm very excited to see how that turns out.
Fregly has never felt like a real person. We never actually learn anything about him beyond the fact that he is this weird, inhuman, freaky kid who's always around.
Wanna see my secret freckle?
I'll sign it, Greg Heffley, if you let me look at your infection.
What if that's because he was never actually real? He was always something made up for the diary. What if Fregly is actually a symbolic representation of both Frank and Greg? You have to admit that their canon full names, Franklin and Gregory, sound a whole lot like Fregly when combined, because
I'm speechless. And usually, like, okay, whenever I react to theories in the future, do not expect much talking because I'm gonna be fully invested into that theory. My goodness, what is going on?
Is a representation of the dark truth that Greg is actually dead and Frank is pretending to be him. It's why Fregly is depicted as this weird kind of disgusting kid, because deep down, Frank is disgusted with himself for what he is doing, and this disgust and shame manifests in the diaries as Fregly. It's why in both the books and the movies, Greg is mistaken for Fregly.
Hi, Ollie. Oh, hi, Fregly. She thinks I'm Fregly?
Why does Fregly have a secret language? Because Greg has a secret language. Why does Fregly want to show his secret freckle? Maybe because Greg also recently discovered a new freckle. And what does Fregly do in the town talent show? He's a ventriloquist speaking for his puppet.
Say hello to the boys and girls, Freggers. Hello, boys and girls.
Stray off from the topic real quick. Just curious, what did he name his doll?
Freggers. Hello.
What did he name his puppet?
Freggers.
I know I'm not the only one hearing that.
Hello, boys and girls.
Just like the way Frank speaks for Greg. And finally, remember the Devil Worshipper Woods story? This was the story that first hinted about Greg's accidental house fire. What does Greg actually find when he goes there?
Guys?
Fregly, because Fregly represents the dark truth in Diary of a Wimpy Kid, and that is my theory. Thank you very much, Zooey Mama.
I'm gonna take one more fall. I think we just leave that there. I think he didn't get to my theory about the dad dying. That's okay though. In the next episode, make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. I'm taking a lap. I'm taking 5 laps. That's gonna stick with me for a long time.